answer your questions. I got this one through my inbox. It is about being a runner and tips on plantar fasciitis, so how to deal with plantar fasciitis as a runner. I am head coach here, personal trainer and sports podiatrist, so out here in Pottsville near the Gold Coast. So if you want to come and see me, book an appointment or train with me, get on to it. We are going to talk about plantar fasciitis, plantar, bottom of the foot, fascia that runs on the bottom of the foot, heel to the toes. Itis meaning inflammation, okay? We don't want that inflammation to stay there. You've gotta make sure you use RISA. That acronym means rest, ice, compression, elevation. The R is for referral to Odette. You know you've got to book in to see me, all right? So acute phase, you've got to take the inflammation away or it will start to degrade the other structures in the feet, okay? So take that inflammation, that heat away using ice, using compression, pulling the blood out of there, holding the foot in a correct position, okay? And resting. I'm sorry, you'll have to rest, you'll have to do something else, okay? Just for a little bit, the acute phase. Then you want to see how your foot is working, okay? If that fascia is all tight, it's tight for a reason, okay? And it's probably got something to do with the mechanics of your foot, your calf, your, the calf at the back, then you have your tib ant at the front, so you have those other muscles at the front of the lower limb. Those can become tight, you can get locked up in the joints, the tibia and the talus can get all locked, and then that means, you're not moving properly through the gait cycle, and then all this gets all upset, the fascia. So then we can roll it out. We can try and stretch that muscle out, break up the fascia a bit. After you do that, you can ice it, or you can use a water bottle. You don't have to use these True Nuts, okay? Yeah, that's what they're called. You can go into True Protein and buy them off their website. Anyway, so you can roll out the fascia. Don't go overboard. I see some people just rolling, okay? Just break it up a bit, then use some ice, let it repair, give it time. It's like having a scab and you just constantly like pulling the scab off. You've got to give it time to just heal, let it heal, baby. All right, so from there, okay, you got rest, ice, compression, acute phase, take the inflammation out of it. Then you want to see if your foot is actually working. Now, a stable foot, the points that make you stable on the ground is your first toe, your fifth toe, and your heel, and the fascia, and all of those other things are in between them. Okay, so if your foot kind of looks like inverted, or maybe your big toe is dropping down, or maybe your heel is inverting or everting and you're just dropping through the arch. There's lots of different things. So seeing a professional, seeing if you've got a hypermobile foot, you might be flat-footed. Everyone says I'm flat-footed, but what is a flat foot? Is it a hypermobile flat foot, or is it a fixed flat foot where you've got post-tibial tendon dysfunction? That means this tendon is given way and everything's dropped down. Like, there's a lot going on in there. If your hands weren't working properly, you would go and see a doctor. If your foot's not working properly and you're getting pain, go and find out how your foot functions, how it can function better. Now, most of you, I see this big toe, it doesn't work, okay? It's not getting to the ground, and when it doesn't get down, this arch doesn't lift, locking the foot for then this tibia and the knee to track over properly. That the knee falls in and the foot flattens out, the big toe doesn't communicate with the core properly. All of these things happen. Now, I can spot that. I've been looking at feet, being a podiatrist, Pilates instructor, so looking at all that rehab phase, a runner for years. I can go in the city to surf and run behind you and say, you got this, and that, all right? But a lot of you, not body aware, and that's all right. Our feet are in shoes all day. It's like as if your hands were in gloves or mittens all day. They're not functioning properly. So when they're outside of shoes, how can we help that? So piano toes are fantastic, which means you're just going to bring your toes up, spread them out, come down from big toe, second toe all the way down to your little pinky, then the opposite way, then just lifting the big toe on its own, lifting the other toes on their own. And as you do this, can you keep the arch lifted in your feet without rolling to the sides of the feet? So I'm going to show you what this is. I'll walk back. So, right, you can see the arch of my foot. I press the big toe down, you see my arch lifts, okay? Big toe stays down, other toes come up. Other toes come down, big toe comes up, okay? So when we go through the gait cycle, I want to be able to press off that big toe. All right, we want to work it, move it, baby. All right, so there's some tips. I hope they help. And if you want some more info, you can contact me directly. You can come in and see me at the clinic. You can inbox me. And as I said, if the question helps others, I will endeavor to answer it, okay? Please leave a comment if you did enjoy this, because I will then just make more, okay? All right, bye guys, thanks.